U.S. President Donald Trump has claimed that American airstrikes have totally obliterated Iran's main nuclear sites, marking a major escalation as Washington officially joins Israel's ongoing conflict with Tehran. In a televised address from the White House, Trump said the U.S. military struck Iran's key nuclear facilities at Fordow, Esfahan, and Natanz, calling the operation a spectacular military success. He added, Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. The operation, dubbed Midnight Hammer, involved 7 B-2 stealth bombers flying 18 hours from the U.S. mainland, supported by aerial refueling. According to U.S. Joint Chiefs Chairman Dan Kane, the strike package included 14 bunker-buster bombs, over 30 submarine-launched Tomahawk missiles, and more than 125 military aircraft. Initial assessments, Kane said, indicated extremely severe damage at all 3 sites. He noted that Iran's air defenses did not detect the aircraft, allowing the U.S. to maintain the element of surprise. Following the strikes, Iranian state TV reported a volley of missiles launched at Israel, with explosions heard in Jerusalem and sirens sounding in Tel Aviv. Iranian authorities confirmed the attacks on the nuclear sites but said there were no signs of contamination. Saudi regulators also reported no radioactive effects in the Gulf. Iran condemned the strikes as a violation of international law and accused the U.S. of colluding with what it called the genocidal Israeli regime. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said the attacks would have everlasting consequences, warning that Iran reserves all options to defend its sovereignty and people. The Iranian Foreign Ministry labeled the U.S. action a criminal act of aggression and called for an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council. It also urged the International Atomic Energy Agency to fulfill its responsibilities, noting that the targeted nuclear facilities were under IAEA safeguards. U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said the operation aimed not at regime change, but at neutralizing threats to U.S. interests. He stated, the president authorized a precision operation. This mission was not and has not been about regime change. Private diplomatic messages were sent to Iran, encouraging negotiation. Hegseth echoed Trump's message that Iran must never acquire a nuclear weapon, insisting the operation demonstrated America's deterrent power. Trump warned Iran that any retaliation would be met with force far greater than what was witnessed during the operation. While Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu praised Trump, the move sparked criticism within the U.S. Some Democrats denounced the operation as lacking congressional approval. Even within Trump's Republican base, concerns grew over potential entanglement in another prolonged conflict. Iran's president had earlier warned of devastating retaliation if Israeli bombings continued, affirming that Iran's civilian nuclear program would not be abandoned under threat or war. Trump concluded his statement by calling the moment historic and urging Iran to choose peace. Iran's parliament has voted to close the Strait of Hormuz, a key maritime route through which approximately 20% of the world's oil and gas passes. The report comes from Press TV and was cited by Reuters. Amid rising tensions, Russia, China, and Pakistan have jointly proposed a draft resolution at the United Nations Security Council. The resolution calls for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire in the Middle East. It's not yet clear when it will be put to a vote. Diplomats say the 3 countries have circulated the draft and requested comments from member states by Monday evening. For the resolution to pass, it requires at least 9 votes in favor and no vetoes from the 5 permanent members: the United States, France, Britain, Russia, or China. Meanwhile, Iran's health ministry has confirmed that several people were wounded in U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. However, none of the injured showed signs of radioactive contamination. According to ministry spokesman Hossein Kermanpour, nuclear emergency units had already been set up near nuclear sites. Iran has also executed a man convicted of spying for Israel's Mossad intelligence agency. Majid Mosabi was hanged after a legal process that concluded with a confirmation of his sentence by Iran's Supreme Court. He was accused of attempting to pass sensitive information to Mossad. Later the same day, judiciary officials announced 3 new arrests in Kermanshah province on suspicion of espionage. One of the individuals was said to be a European national. Special judicial branches will now be established to handle Israeli-linked espionage cases. The Israeli military has confirmed that its fighter jets struck dozens of military targets across Iran. This includes a long-range missile site in 𝐄𝐧𝐠𝐥𝐢𝐬, along with strikes on missile launchers in Bushehr province, Awaz in the southwest, and central Esfahan. following the U.S. airstrikes on nuclear facilities. Iran's Atomic Energy Organization spokesperson Behrouz Kamalvandi said the attacks were not unprecedented and confirmed damage at Fordow, Esfahan, and Natanz. He added that Iran's civilian nuclear program would continue. Speaking on NBC's Meet the Press, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance said that the United States had set back Iran's nuclear weapons program. He emphasized that President Donald Trump now hopes to pursue a diplomatic solution, stating, "We want to talk to the Iranians about a long-term settlement." In France, President Emmanuel Macron is convening an emergency defense cabinet meeting to discuss developments in the Middle East. The French presidency said efforts are underway to speed up the evacuation of French nationals who wish to leave Iran and Israel. Macron has already held talks with several regional leaders, including the Saudi Crown Prince. Lastly, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has issued warning to the United States. In a statement, the IRGC said it reserves the right to retaliate and warned that its response could involve options beyond the understanding of the U.S. and Israel. It accused U.S. and Israeli leaders of criminal actions and stated that it would not be intimidated by threats. The Prime Minister reaffirmed Pakistan's support for the people and government of Iran and recognized Tehran's right to self-defense. However, he emphasized the urgent need to return to dialogue and diplomacy, calling it the only viable path forward. Shehbaz Sharif also urged for collective efforts to de-escalate the situation, reaffirming Pakistan's readiness to play a constructive role in this regard. PM Shehbaz also expressed concern over the U.S. strikes targeting Iranian facilities safeguarded by the International Atomic Energy Agency. He termed these attacks a serious violation of international law and the IAEA statute. In response, President Pezeshkian expressed deep appreciation for Pakistan's support and thanked the Prime Minister, the government, the people, and Pakistan's military leadership for their solidarity with Iran. Both leaders agreed on the need for unity among the Muslim Ummah during this critical time and pledged to stay in close contact. Meanwhile, Balochistan's Chief Minister Sarfraz Bugti stressed the importance of timely and coordinated action to manage the situation in districts bordering Iran. Chairing a high-level meeting in Quetta, CM Bugti highlighted the need to ensure the continued supply of food and fuel, facilitate the return of pilgrims and students, and maintain overall security in these regions. Officials briefed him on current strategies, and it was reported that there is no shortage of food in the border areas. The chief minister directed authorities to guarantee uninterrupted delivery of basic necessities, including electricity and LPG, and called for the use of alternative energy strategies where required. In a separate development, Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar renewed Pakistan's call for an end to Israel's ongoing assault in Gaza. Speaking at the Organization of Islamic Cooperation's Council of Foreign Ministers meeting, Dar described Israel's actions as a genocidal campaign that has claimed the lives of over 55,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children, and injured many more. He pointed out that millions remain displaced, while humanitarian aid and workers continue to be targeted. Dar criticized the recent veto of a UN Security Council resolution co-sponsored by Pakistan, which had demanded an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The foreign minister called for an unconditional and permanent ceasefire, unhindered humanitarian access, and accountability for Israeli war crimes. He stressed that lasting peace can only be achieved by recognizing the Palestinians' right to self-determination and establishing a sovereign Palestinian state based on pre-1967 borders, with Jerusalem as its capital. On the ground, the situation in Gaza remains dire. According to the Gaza Health Ministry, at least 51 Palestinians were killed and 104 wounded in Israeli strikes in the past 24 hours alone. This brings the total death toll since October 2023 to nearly 56,000, with over 131,000 injured. Al Jazeera reports that the latest attacks have targeted areas in southern Khan Yunis, central Gaza, and northern Gaza City.